Tips and tricks for software engineers. Hello and welcome to this video on code quality tips and tricks for software engineers. In this video, we will be discussing some of the best practices and techniques that software engineers can use to improve the quality of their code. As a software engineer, you know that writing good code is essential for the success of any software project. Good code is not only easier to maintain and debug, but it is also more efficient and scalable. However, achieving good code quality is not always easy, and it requires a lot of effort and dedication. In this video, we will be sharing some of the most effective tips and tricks that you can use to improve the quality of your code. We will cover topics such as code readability, maintainability, testing, and optimization. So, whether you're a beginner or an experienced software engineer, this video is for you. By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of how to write high-quality code that is easy to maintain, test, and optimize. So, let's get started. Tips and tricks for software engineers. One of the most important aspects of code quality is readability. Readable code is easy to understand and maintain, which is essential for the long-term success of any software project. Here are some tips for improving the readability of your code. 1. Use descriptive variable names. Use variable names that describe what the variable represents. Avoid using single-letter variable names or abbreviations that are not clear. 2. Keep your code organized. Use consistent indentation, spacing, and formatting to make your code easy to read. Use comments to explain complex sections of code. 3. Use meaningful function and method names. Use function and method names that describe what the function or method does. Avoid using generic names like do something or process data. 4. Keep your code concise. Avoid writing long, complex functions or methods. Break them down into smaller, more manageable pieces. 5. Use white space effectively. Use white space to separate sections of code and make it easier to read. Don't cram too much code onto one line. By following these tips, you can improve the readability of your code and make it easier for others to understand and maintain. Tips and tricks for software engineers. Maintainability is another important aspect of code quality. Maintainable code is easy to modify and update, which is essential for the long-term success of any software project. Here are some tips for improving the maintainability of your code. 1. Use modular design. Break your code down into smaller, more manageable modules. Each module should have a clear purpose and be easy to modify and update. 2. Use version control. Use a version control system like Git to track changes to your code. This makes it easy to roll back changes if something goes wrong and to collaborate with other developers. 3. Write unit tests. Write unit tests for your code to ensure that it works as expected. This makes it easier to modify and update your code without introducing bugs. 4. Refactor your code. Regularly review your code and look for ways to improve it. Refactor your code to make it more modular, readable, and maintainable. 5. Use consistent coding standards. Use consistent coding standards across your team or organization. This makes it easier for developers to understand and modify each other's code. By following these tips, you can improve the maintainability of your code and make it easier to modify and update over time. Tips and tricks for software engineers. Testing is an essential part of code quality. Testing ensures that your code works as expected and that it is free of bugs and errors. Here are some tips for improving the testing of your code. 1. Write unit tests. Write unit tests for your code to ensure that it works as expected. Unit tests should cover all possible scenarios and edge cases. 2. Use automated testing. Use automated testing tools like JUnit or Selenium to automate your tests. This makes it easier to run tests regularly and catch bugs early. 3. Use code coverage tools. Use code coverage tools like Yocto or Cobertura to measure how much of your code is covered by tests. This helps you identify areas of your code that need more testing. 4. Use integration testing. Use integration testing to test how different parts of your code work together. This helps you identify issues that may not be caught by unit tests. 5. Use performance testing. Use performance testing to test how your code performs under different loads and conditions. This helps you identify performance bottlenecks and optimize your code. By following these tips, you can improve the testing of your code and ensure that it works as expected and is free of bugs and errors. Tips and tricks for software engineers. Optimizing your code is another important aspect of code quality. Optimized code is more efficient and scalable, which is essential for the long-term success of any software project. Here are some tips for optimizing your code. 1. Use efficient algorithms and data structures. Use algorithms and data structures that are efficient and scalable. This helps your code perform better and handle larger data sets. 2. Avoid unnecessary computations. Avoid unnecessary computations and operations that can slow down your code. Use caching and memoization to avoid redundant computations. 3. Optimize your database queries. Optimize your database queries to reduce the amount of time it takes to retrieve data. Use indexes and avoid using select asterisk. 4. Use asynchronous programming. Use asynchronous programming to improve the performance of your code. This allows your code to perform multiple tasks simultaneously. 5. Profile your code. Use profiling tools to identify performance bottlenecks in your code. This helps you identify areas of your code that need optimization. By following these tips, you can optimize your code and make it more efficient and scalable.